Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. And right before Thanksgiving, a very strange one it's looking to be. And we can talk about that because today, what I'm going to show you is how to spatchcock a bird. So I'm going to show you on a chicken because that's just really easy to do and you can kind of get your bearings. But this works on a turkey as well. But we'll talk about chicken and turkey too, because if you're going to have a smaller Thanksgiving this year, you may want to consider roasting a chicken instead of a turkey or even two chickens that might be a little bit more flexible, a little bit more practical, and a way to save some money. But also, before I tell you a little bit more about me, I just want to make sure we can get the chat going. I am here to answer any of your questions. If you want to just sit back, relax, and watch, absolutely no problem. Welcome. Happy to have you here. But if you have questions, because I know it's like the week before, sometimes that panic sets in and people are thinking about how to scale down their recipes. There's a lot going on this year. So if you have any questions that you want me to answer in this half hour, please put them in the chat and I'm happy to do that. It can be about turkey, but it can be about anything Thanksgiving, anything that you're wondering about, how to save time, how to save money. I know the cooking burnout is very real right now. So I just want to invite you to do that. Again, I am Stacie Billis. You can find me weekly on my podcast, Didn't I Just Feed You, which I co host with my dear friend and colleague, Megan Splon. So, anywhere where you get your podcast, just type in Didn't I Just Feed You? And I wish I could hear you all chuckling right now. If you have kids, I bet that will bring a laugh to you. Mostly it does because we've all said that before. On social, we are also at Didn't I Just Feed You? We have a Facebook page, but more importantly, we have a listeners group that you can always join. And there is so much going on. There's so much support, recipe trading tips. If you go to the at Didn't I Just Feed You page and you click groups, you can join us there using the password whiskey. On Instagram, we are also at Didn't I Just Feed You. If you just want to follow me personally, I would love that too. I'm at Stacie Billis on Instagram and staciebillis.com. And lastly, my most recent book. So excited. It's called Winner Winner Chicken Dinner, and it is 50 winning recipes, just chicken dinners. Like, I just wanted this to be something that, I know you all are cooking chicken so much of the time. Maybe you've made a meal plan and you can grab a recipe from here. Maybe you haven't made a meal plan, but when you go to the market, you just grab those boneless, skinless chicken thighs because you can do something with them. This can live on your counter and you can just peruse, grab a recipe, and an easy dinner is always close by. I'm just going to say that I think it would make a great holiday gift. But maybe you get it for yourself or check it out from your local library, peruse it, if you grab it at your local bookstore and then decide. So that's who I am. I can't wait to hear your questions and maybe hear a little bit more about who you guys are. But in the meantime, let's get started. So I love spatchcocking a bird because basically what you're going to do is just take out the backbone and it's a really, really simple. It takes 3 minutes. You're going to see right here in live in real time. And then you flatten it. And by flattening it, you get rid of that inner cavity and you can get more even, quicker cooking between the light meat and the dark meat just by doing this very simple step. Now, I love this for roasting chicken because it just speeds things up and it makes it, again, like rice, really nice, even cooking of the meat, and the skin crisps up because more of the skin is exposed to the heat. But I think this is especially great for turkeys because cooking a turkey, if you've done it before, it can be hard. Roasting a piece of meat, you just want to like put it in the oven, right? And just have the oven do the work. But getting it at the right temperature, making sure that the skin gets crispy, making sure that your dark meat cooks all the way through without drying out your light meat, it can be a lot. So this is a great way to just make it easier on yourself. And that's the whole thing. I mean, I have to tell you, my first cookbook was called Make It Easy. So that's my MO. And everything that I do, I just want to make it easier and more pleasant for you to get in your kitchen and do what you got to do. Sometimes you do it with joy and you go slow and you enjoy it. Other times you just need to get dinner done. All right, so back to the chicken. I'm going to show you how to spatchcock. Um, Again, that just means taking out the backbone. It's nothing complicated. let's move our camera angle here so I can make sure that you can see everything. Here we go. Okay. So you take out your chicken, your turkey, whatever it is. And the first thing you want to do is check inside the cavity to see what's there. Usually the giblets are there. And then you want to pat it down. This is a very, very important step that's really easy to forget. But this is moisture is the enemy of crispy skin. And we all want crispy skin, right? That's the best part of roasting a bird. So you want to pat it down. You do not want to rinse it with water, you guys. I know this is a big one. People still often say rinse it with water. I totally get it. I understand why. But if there is any salmonella or any bacteria that you're trying to get rid of, by rinsing it, you're actually spreading that bacteria all over your sink, all over your kitchen. Cooking the bird properly will kill all that bacteria. You don't have to wash it away. So just pat it down. Okay. And actually, you know what? Let's take 1 second and pause and talk about our utensils, what utensils we want. For spatchcocking a bird, you would use a large chef's knife, or much better if you have them or you're willing to invest in them, heavy duty poultry shears. If you have regular kitchen shears, that will probably work if they're still sharp on a chicken, but on a turkey, you're going to want to have these heavy duty shears. I think they're really, really worth it. So you can get them pretty affordably. If you want to break down a whole chicken, you're going to also want the shears. You're going to want a chef's knife. You're going to want a smaller paring knife. If you have a boning knife, that's also great. Like if you're going to be breaking down a lot of birds, which by the way, I love to do because it's a very easy way once you get the hang of it, and it's much easier than you think, to make the most of your budget, your supermarket budget, because you can break it down. It's whole chickens are usually much cheaper by the pound than parts because the market hasn't done the butchering for you, and you have much more flexibility. You know, you can break down a whole bird, you can get 2 of them and have 4 drumsticks and thighs or leg quarters. Then you can put the breasts away for a different meal. If you were to buy 2 pounds of chicken breast for one meal and 4 to 6 leg quarters for another meal, you'd be spending way more. So if you end up getting hooked on breaking down a chicken and feeling like that badass kitchen boss that you are inside, I know it, then you might want to consider getting a knife that looks a little bit like this. And of course, it's escaping my memory right now. But this one is actually used for fish. So it's a little bit longer and thinner. And it's the one that you're going to use for meat is a little bit shorter. It'll come back to me. You know, it's 4 o'clock at the end of the day. Really, I should have a cocktail in hand, to be honest. Okay, but for spatchcocking, we're just going to use our kitchen shears. Okay, so I've got them. I'm going to move these other knives out of our way. Okay, and this is the breast side up. The fleshier part is breast side up. Where it's bonier and where the wings are connected is the spine side up. And this backbone is what we are going to, oh, I see someone. What should we look for when buying a chicken? Hey, Megan. You guys, that's my podcast partner showing up to support me. Hi, Megan. We'll talk about that in a second. Let me spatchcock this and then we'll get to that question because it's a really, really good, important one. Okay, so where the wings meet the back is where your backbone is, and that's what we're taking out. And then you want to turn it to you with the cavity opening facing you. So cavity opening facing you, wings opposite you. We can see that they're connected here. This is the backbone. And literally, we're just going to cut. I mean, this is really not rocket science, you guys. So just find the backbone, kind of position your shears to the side of it. And, you know, here's the thing about breaking down a bird in general. If you run into it being very, very difficult, you're probably in the wrong place because you're trying to cut through bone. There we go. Got a little traction there. See, just cutting right down the side there. So you can see, opening it up, there's the backbone right there, cut right through the ribs. And now we're just going to do that on the other side as well. So I'm going to open it this way. However you want to grab it. It's really simple. There's really no, like, this isn't a precision technique. Just kind of run the scissors along the side. So what I was saying before is if you find yourself running into something that's really difficult to cut, chances are you're in the wrong place, because whenever you're breaking down a bird, it's really all about articulation. You want to move the joint around so that you can find the space where the bones meet. And you want to run your knife right in between that space. So when you're in the right spot, it's actually pretty easy for your knife, or in this case, when you're going down the backbone, for your kitchen shears to cut. So if you're really struggling, you're probably not in the right place. The good news is poultry bones are also really easy. And if you just use a little might, you can cut right through the bone and it's not a very big deal. Okay, so here we have the backbone. This is gold. This is another reason why I love breaking down birds, because you end up with the scraps, which are not scraps at all, you guys. I mean, this is how you make stock. So this is what you want. I'm going to save this. If you are breaking down a chicken and you don't have time to make stock, you can put this in a bag, a little food bag, put it in the refrigerator for a few days, or pop it in the freezer, and then it's just good there. And you can maybe, like, the next time you break down a bird or you spatchcock a chicken, put the next backbone in there and just leave it in the freezer until you have enough to make chicken stock or turkey stock. You can actually spatchcock your turkey ahead of time, leave it in the refrigerator. In fact, if you want to get really fancy and make it really delicious, dry brine it the night before. And then you have the turkey leftovers, the backbone in particular, the giblets, that you can throw in a pot to make your turkey stock that you can use to make gravy the next day. Okay, so we've taken out the backbone. The last step is really just to flip it over, kind of lay it flat. And if you want to get the most out of it, kind of rest your hands on it, press down. You'll hear the backbone crack. I was talking, so you couldn't hear it here, but I felt it snap. And then it just lays flat. You season it, you put it on your sheet pan, and you're good to go. So I'm going to take a minute here before we talk about breaking down a bird and answer some questions. Hi, washing hands. Always wash your hands thoroughly when you're working with poultry. So do you guys have any questions? Oh, Megan was talking about what to look for in a bird, so I can start there while we gather if there are any other questions. Listen, the labels on foods can be very overwhelming, especially poultry. So I'm going to tell you that if you are like, what's the difference between organic, free range? All of that is in my cookbook, Winner Winner Chicken Dinner. The labels on chicken and turkey are going to be coordinated. But I'm going to tell you that there are just like two things that I really want you to focus on in terms of quality and taste. You want your bird to be air chilled. That's very, very important. And you don't want it to be huge. Really, like 3.5 to 4 pounds is ideal. Once you get much bigger, you're really losing flavor. It's been pumped up. Growth hormones, which we don't have to get into whether or not we believe in them or not. It doesn't matter. They're there, they exist, they're relatively safe. If you don't want hormones in your food, then don't worry about it. Stick with a hormone-free bird. If it doesn't matter to you, you're getting a conventionally raised chicken, you're still just losing flavor when you get above 4 pounds. So, or it's been water chilled and then it retains water, which also reduces the flavor. So again, just air chilled, and look for that 3.5 to 4 pound range to get the best absolute flavor. Are there any other questions? Maybe I can see them here. I don't want to mess up our Zoom. Oh, there are some questions. No, maybe not. All right, guys. You're just sitting back and we're like, oh yeah, hi.
Anne from Facebook Live wants to know, how do you brine a bird?
Okay, so this is a really great question. It depends if we're talking turkey. Thank you, Megan. Depends if we're talking turkey or chicken. So there's wet brine and there's dry brine. When it comes to chickens, you guys, I don't really see the point in wet brining. It's very messy. You have to make sure that the bird is completely submerged in the saltwater solution, find room for it in your fridge. And I find that you get very similar, if not better, results from a dry brine, which is just rubbing the whole chicken once you've had it dry with a whole lot of salt, putting it on a sheet pan and leaving it in your refrigerator uncovered for about 24 hours. And actually, because you aren't using water for your brine and it's just salt, you're going to get crispier skin. The water helps with a turkey, which is why it's so popular to wet brine a turkey. Because again, like I was talking about earlier, it's really hard to roast a large bird and to get your white meat and your dark meat to cook at the same rate. So when you have a wet brine, the salt and the water are also seeping into the breast. The breast is going to retain that. All the meat is going to retain that, but it's going to help the white meat stay moist because it has that extra water in it in addition to the salt as you cook it, and as you cook it long enough to get the dark meat to also cook all the way through. But actually a wet brine can work, can do the opposite with the skin. It can make it harder to crisp the skin. If you dry it off plenty afterwards, it will work. In the book, I have exact ratios. If you're dry brining, honestly, just slather on the salt. And you can also add other things. You can add lemon zest, you can add herbs, you can add, all kinds of aromatics so that I see another question coming through, so that your brine is actually flavoring the bird as well. And I think that the next question was about, doesn't the salt dry it out? Yeah, that's actually the point, that you're drawing a lot of the moisture out. It's going to help crisp the skin. And actually, you want some of the moisture drawn out. If it's retaining its own juices when you cook it, it's going to be just juicy enough. It's not going to get overly dry. And drawing out some of that juice, that moisture rather, when you slather the salt on it and leave it for 24 hours, is actually going to help it be more tender, because the salt also does a chemical reaction and tenderizes the meat. Oh, Susan saying she loves a spatchcock chicken. It's really, I don't know why every whole chicken recipe isn't a spatchcock chicken. So I don't know if we have other questions, you can just throw them at me even while I am working here at the counter. I think that I'm going to really quickly show you guys how to break down a bird, because I love this so much. And I want you, like I said earlier, it's the most economical way to cook chicken. You buy a whole bird or two whole birds, you're paying way less per pound than you are for the parts. You break it down, you have flexibility. And I also think that for this Thanksgiving, if you're feeling really ambitious and you want to use this technique in this video to try and break down a turkey, I'm actually going to be buying turkey parts this year. It's really great because you can freeze part of it. You can cook the turkey in different ways. I'm going to be roasting the breast and braising the legs. And then I have two very different types of leftovers if I have any. It's just my family of four, so I very well might. The braised legs, that meat's going to fall apart. I'm going to have a lot of great shredded meat that I can freeze in a Ziploc baggie and use in soups and stews down the line. The breast I can slice up. That's great for sandwiches. You can also freeze that. You can even freeze the parts before you cook them if you get a fresh turkey. You don't want to refreeze if you've thawed a frozen turkey. But if you get a fresh turkey and you break it down and you're just cooking for 2 or 4 or 5, you want to just cook the breast, wrap up those turkey legs, throw them in the freezer, and you can braise them another time. I just want you guys to have as many different techniques as possible and as much flexibility as possible, because this Thanksgiving is a little bit different. So let's get our spatchcocked bird. Excuse me for walking away here. So I'm going to save this. It's actually going to be our dinner tonight. I'm going to save this because I'm going to make some chicken stock. And let's get another whole bird here. So, okay, like we did before, we just want to check the cavity. Is there anything in there? There's nothing in this one. And then we want to pat this dry. And I just want to say that, we are not trying to, we can never compete with butchers. Butchers are amazing. They break down, 50 birds in a day. Like, this is not about speed. This is not about doing it exactly perfectly. I promise you, if you miss the joint, I mean, listen, with the wings, sometimes I even miss the joint. I might even miss the joint right here live. And I'm a professional. I literally wrote a book on chicken. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to impact taste or cooking. Okay. So you're going to find that this is really, if you're just easy on yourself, you're going to find that this is really easy. And then also you're going to find that if you do it enough, you are going to get really good at it because a lot of it is just that muscle memory. So let's move the camera down. Again, you can do this with your turkey if you want parts this year and you don't want to ask your butcher to do it for you. Okay, so this time we're going to start breast side up. Okay, and I want the legs near me. Here are the wings. They're resting, they're connected to the backbone. Backbone is down on the cutting board. Legs are here. Gonna grab my chef's knife. Okay, and you're gonna see that the legs just kind of naturally splay. And there's a whole lot of skin right here. And we'll just kind of cut right into that skin. I'm not even cutting meat, just cutting into the skin right now. There's a lot of excess. And what I'm doing is I'm loosening the legs and also exposing the meat and the joint, hopefully, okay? But once I cut this skin rather, I'm gonna grab the chicken by the legs or the turkey and use your might. It's good, it feels kind of good, especially this year. And kind of pull them up like that. Just pull them up and under. And what I'm doing is I'm naturally popping the bone out of the socket. And what that does is it basically tells me exactly where to cut. See, I can see where the space is. And I just go right in between and cut right down. Not even a lot of pressure is required. See, you can see the joint is right there. It was easy. I just saw it. Put that aside. Pop it. There is that joint. I can see right there. Wish we had a macro lens, but you know, we're not a TV studio here. That's okay. I think you guys get the point. And just cut right through there. There's always one side that's more awkward because it's my not dominant side. Okay. Now we have what we call leg quarters. This is the thigh and the drumstick connected. Okay. I actually love to cook with leg quarters, chicken paprikash, any kind of braised chicken. But if you want to separate it and have a thigh and a drumstick, there's a very good clue right here. The chicken has a fat line right in the place where the thigh meets the drumstick. Let's see on this side. Kind of just push the skin back a little bit and you can see again, there's that line, there's the thigh, there's the drumstick, and that is your guide. That's where you want to cut. Now, of course, you know, you want to find the exact spot. If you cut there, you know, you might hit the bone a little bit. So again, remember what I said earlier, if you've been watching, don't be afraid. Like your hands are already messy. Let's get in there. You move the bone, you look for that articulation. That will really help you find where the space is. All right, so I see something is coming in about a wooden, I'm guessing the question is about a cutting board. So if you guys want to ask now, you can. You see right there, we cut right through it. And if you miss a little bit, actually this is cartilage, this is skin, but sometimes you'll find that if you had to cut through the bone a little bit, a little cartilage will come off. So always just check where you cut it to make sure you can just run your finger to make sure no little like tiny bone fragment is left there. Now we have a bone in, skin on thigh, and a drumstick. Okay, and over here we have a leg quarter that we did not split. Now we're going to get rid of these wings, except we're not really going to get rid of them. That's actually not the right way to say it. I'm going to take my smaller paring knife here because this is a smaller little piece. This is another beautiful thing. If you don't want to cook the wings, you're going to put it with the backbone, and this is going to help make beautiful, beautiful stock. Okay, so again, just like the legs, you don't want to cut too deeply because you don't want to, you know, cut through bone by accident. Just kind of cut the skin a little bit. Uh-oh, my knife needs a little sharpening. That's not great. There we go. And that will help you loosen the wing to find that articulation. And once you find it, you know, this is often tucked. So you just want to kind of like get your finger in there and not be afraid. And then you can just let the bird hang and cut right through. You can even twist to help. There we go. See, I told you guys I might miss with the wing. Ooh, this is a tough one. Ha, got it. Okay, so there you go. In real life, you can see the professional missed. Oh, barely too. But you see, you just cut right through the bone. You just got to give it a little muscle. Let's try this side. So you want to really get in there. It's deep. So here it is, real deep. Ah, that one I did perfectly. I had to show off after having to cut through this one. So that you see the difference between how I had to really press down on that one and how that one just right through. It's because I got right into the socket. Okay, wings. These cook them up, of course, delicious, or you can add them to your stock. Now we're left with the breast here. We want to do what we did with spatchcocking. Let's take out this backbone. I just need my shears. So you're going to flip it breast side down now. And again, now that we have taken off the wings and the legs, you can see there are these fat lines right here that actually show you exactly where you need to cut to get this backbone out. So again, spine up, cavity facing you. I see these little lines here, these little fat lines. They helped me get into exactly the right spot. Did you see how effortless that was? Just 1, 2, 3. Barely had to put any pressure. Save this for our stock. Okay, now we have a bone-in, skin-on breast. We just want to split it. If you want to help you along, you kind of flip it over, and right here in this heart-shaped place is the wishbone. You can just kind of split that ahead of time. That's actually the only bone that you're going to be cutting through when you split a breast. The rest is cartilage. Okay, then you kind of spread the skin and you find that little seam and just cut it right in half. There you go. Now, I have to tell you, we won't do this today, but if you want boneless, skinless pieces, you break down the bird almost exactly the same way. And then when you get to the point where you have this thigh, you use your boning knife. Remember, I couldn't remember that earlier. Again, this is my fish boning knife, so it's a little longer than it is when you're using one for meat. Or you can use a paring knife. And you literally just run the knife. You can see that the bone is sticking out. Just very carefully run it right down like this, never in your hand like what I'm doing, bad knife skills, on the cutting board. Just run it down and literally pull out the bone to get the boneless thigh. And the skin also, I mean, you can see it's almost coming off. It literally just peels right off. That's how you would get a boneless, skinless thigh. But to get boneless, skinless breasts, you actually do something completely different. After you take out the backbone, you don't split it like that. You actually take your knife and you run it down the side of the cartilage in the middle and you kind of pull it off the bone. So we're not going to do that today. I don't think that's as useful for Turkey Day. So I think this is much more useful. If you're going to break down a turkey and get really ambitious, I would do it with the bone in and the skin on. So you want to use the method that I just showed. So we learned how to spatchcock a bird. We learned how to break down a bird. We learned why I love it so much. I'm going to wash my hands and wait to see if you guys have any questions. I saw a couple come in. I think one was about cutting boards, maybe.
Do you want help with the questions?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so Anita, Facebook, do you put your wooden cutting board in the dishwasher for safety? If not, what do you clean it with?
Yeah, that's a really, really, really important question. So
We lost you, Stacie. Hang in there, guys. I know oh, there she is. Okay. We lost your volume too. Hold on. Let's see, where'd you go? All right. You're muted. Got it?
I'm also tilted now a little bit, but I'm not going to mess with my camera because I don't want to touch. I swiped it by accident. Cutting boards. You want to use the hardest cutting board that you can. It's a little very distracting to see myself twisted like this. So you just want a really, really hard wood. It really doesn't have to be synthetic. I do use a separate cutting board for meat than I do for my vegetables. And yes, I just put it in the dishwasher, or I wash it with very, very hot soapy water. Since it's a dedicated meat cutting board, as long as I wash it really thoroughly, and here is the kicker, you guys, you also have to let it dry thoroughly. So moisture is where bacteria, like that's what's going to let that bacteria grow and foster it. So it's really about making sure that it's dry and making sure that no matter what kind of cutting board you use, no matter what material it is, that it isn't so knifed up and doesn't have tons of crevices where you can't clean it thoroughly. That's really, it's not so much about the material. It's really about bacteria getting inside those crevices. And then even when you put it in the dishwasher, taking it out, there's a little crack, it's still wet there. You immediately put it away in a cabinet. And that's when your bacteria is going to fester. And then every once in a while, like once every 2 weeks or something, depending on how frequently I'm cooking meat, I will, disinfect it. But really, that's not important. If you just really get it in super hot water, soapy water, and let it dry thoroughly, you're going to be okay.
Okay, I think I see 3 more so far.
Great.
Could you do this method with Cornish hens?
Yeah, they're very tiny though. So I would be careful with them, the little guys. I think that Cornish hens are a really excellent idea for Thanksgiving this year because everybody just gets their individual one. They can be a little bit pricey, but they look beautiful. I would just roast the Cornish hen whole, to be completely honest.
Okay. How do you know when your knives need to be sharpened?
When they stop working like this one. Really though, I mean, here's the thing that I learned. In my class, it was really about honing it daily and it's like having daily good knife care. So I never, ever, ever, ever put my knives in a dishwasher. I wash them right away, really hot, soapy water. And then I dry them. I don't leave them on a drying rack. I dry them with a dish towel and then I hone them, just 2 or 3. So if you guys don't know, if you've ever bought a knife set, maybe you didn't know what this was, it comes with it. This is just a way of keeping it sharp. You want to do about like 45-degree angle and just swipe once or twice on each side. And if you do that on the regular after every single time you use your good knives, you shouldn't need to sharpen your knife more than, once a year or something like that.
Okay. There are 3 more again now. What does it
Great.
mean when chicken looks red or blood-like near the bone?
Oh, I mean, that's just the bone. That's just like right here. I just cut through it. I mean, those are just the capillaries. But it's not bad. It is not bad. It's animal. So that's your but it's not a bad thing at all.
Okay. I usually baste my turkey every half hour, thinking it will make the white meat tender. Is it okay or am I wasting my time? I do salt with the whole bird first.
Yeah, it's not really going to make a difference on your meat. So it's going to make your skin crispy, and that's great. We love that. That's an important part of your Thanksgiving turkey. Um, Really, the thing that's going to help your meat, your white meat especially, stay really nice and juicy is salting it. I would let it sit in the salt for a little while if you have found that, the way you've approached it before, your breast is still coming out a little bit dry. And here's the thing. I mean, this is what I said about chicken also. I'm a professional. I have cooked more chickens than I can count at this point. And even I use a meat thermometer. I use a meat thermometer. Like not just pressing it, not just the time that the recipe says. Every oven is different. The way that you get to a precise cooking temp and to know that for sure is to have a meat thermometer. And that's really, really important for poultry. So, listen, the recommendation is 160 degrees, the internal temperature. That is actually what I recommend in winter chicken dinner, but with a caveat at the beginning of the book. So 160 degrees is technically where you're gonna like get it cooked through. But if you take a bird out of the oven a little bit early and let it rest for 10, 15 minutes, it's going to continue to cook. I actually take my chickens out of the oven when the thickest part of the breast registers 145, and then I let it rest. When you have dry meat, you basically just have overcooked meat. They're really, I mean, all of the things that we do, buttermilk brines, which, also buttermilk has something in it like salt that helps break down and tenderize the meat. All these things are really to boost the tenderness of the meat and to help compensate for imprecise cooking. But the truth is, if you just cook it to the right temperature, you're going to have tender meat, even if you've done nothing. So, in terms of texture, not necessarily flavor, because the salt and the brines and the buttermilk, that all can add some flavor as well. But when it comes to texture, it's really just about cooking the bird to the right temperature. So I would invest in the thermometer. That's what I say. And then you'll use it for your chickens too. I want you to use it all the time.
Okay. Can you brine a turkey, then cook it on an outdoor grill?
You can, absolutely. That's a really, really popular way to do it. Grilling a turkey, like I'm sure we can find a million recipes online. I wonder if Megan is still on. I think she had to leave, but Megan is the queen of grilling. And I bet you she's grilled a turkey or two in her day. I absolutely would recommend spatchcocking your turkey if you're going to grill it, though. You want it to lay flat. That's going to really help you tremendously. Beer can chicken is an example of a way of putting a whole bird, a chicken, a smaller one, of course, on the grill. And, Megan and I were recording an episode of our podcast, Didn't I Just Feed You? And we both just kind of like had a heyday going, going off about how much we think that is overrated. It's a little gimmicky. Um, it's much better and so much easier just to take out that backbone, flatten it, and then get it on the grill.
By the way, Megan is still here, and her comment
Oh,
was,
there you go.
I bet you're cooking those chickens tonight to feed your hungry boys. What are you going to make?
Absolutely. You know what? So Megan and I recently recorded an episode on braising and just how much we love this basic technique and how it's going to get us through this crazy, weird winter. And I'm just going to wing it because once you know the basics of braising, you can do it with whatever you have on hand. You just need some like aromatics, like onion, garlic, celery, carrots. You need some fresh herbs or dried herbs work great, and just some like cooking liquid. And you can even braise with water, to be honest. But a little wine, a little bit of broth and stock. So I think I'm going to braise the. Oh, I have a little puppy coming down the stairs. I'm going to braise this bird. I don't know. I'm going to wing it. And on Didn't I Just Feed You? If you're interested in learning how to braise, that episode I think is coming up in 2 weeks. And this is Ziggy, by the way. I think he smells chicken.
Probably does. So is wing it your favorite pun? Sorry. All right.
I have to tell you, that was we had a lot of fun coming up with puns when we were working on the book.
Bet. Okay, from Susan, what spices do you use for your roasted turkey? Any favorites?
Uh I'm a pretty basic when it comes to poultry in general. I love fresh herbs and I love salt and I love butter. So rosemary, thyme. I love tarragon, which is not one that you hear mentioned as much. I'm really into just making a compound butter, which is a fancy way of saying soften your butter, leave it at room temperature, mix it with some chopped shallot or chopped garlic, some fresh herbs. I love using a mix like parsley, sage, thyme, like I was saying. A little rosemary is great. I'm Greek, so I add some sort of lemon element to almost everything. I know lemon isn't so popular for turkey, but I love it. So a little lemon zest in my butter. And then I use that to slather the bird everywhere. And honestly, it's the same way I do roast chickens too.
Okay, these are the end ones. First of all, for those of you who didn't notice, Megan dropped her favorite grilled turkey spatchcock.
Yes, I knew she'd
in the
come
chat.
through.
So there you go. So take a look if you didn't see it yet. And here's the last one because it looks like your four-legged baby is ready for you to sign off. So here we
Can
go.
you guys hear him?
He was, yes, we could see him. He's adorable. Okay, so Melissa from Facebook wants to know, what is your all-time favorite way to serve chicken or chicken recipe?
That's like asking me a favorite child, which I'm happy to do on any given day. Um, so I guess it kind of depends on the day and my mood. Okay, so one of the things that I love to do when I'm feeling like super crazy and overwhelmed is to butterfly a breast, or you can buy chicken cutlets, the thin cut chicken cutlets, because they're available at the store. They're just much more expensive, and butterflying a breast is super easy. You just cut it down the middle. I show you how in the book with pictures. But just to take chicken cutlets and, I'll either bread them, or if that even feels like too much, dredge them in a little bit of flour, a little bit of butter, salt, pepper, and then I'll make like a little sauce on the side. I love to make sauces ahead of time, like a peanut sauce or like a quick prune chutney, and then have that on hand in the fridge, put that on top, and it's really like simple and fast. And then my other, if I'm going to invest a little more time, it's no mistake that the arroz con pollo is on the cover of my cookbook. That is one of my favorite recipes. And I love cooking chicken and rice in one pot so much that I actually created a chart in Winter Chicken Dinner where you can take the same principle and use any flavor profile. So you can use Indian flavors by starting with, ginger, turmeric, and garlic and onion instead of, the traditional stuff, and then make chicken and rice with an Indian flavor profile. So there's just so much you can do when you know how to cook chicken and rice in one pot.
And I think you reached the end of the question. Oh, it looks like, oh, I can't wait to get your cookbook.
Oh, yay.
I just dropped the link also for those of you who did not see it for her cookbook. So you can click on that and you're able to purchase it from the link. So I think if there are no more questions, this was amazing, Stacie. I
I'm
know
so
first of
glad.
all,